Therefore, it appears that 2025 will be the year of discussions on regulations and laws, as well as decisions that will affect this field for years to come. Because once more, when we consider what is actually happening at the moment, large banks, asset management firms, institutional players, and businesses are all embracing blockchain-based technology, selecting particular networks and tokenizing at enormous rates. Furthermore, all of this is taking place at a time when the market is unregulated. Imagine what will happen when this industry is regulated. Given that tokenization is already approaching $20 billion, large banks are beginning to use blockchain-based payments. SWIFT is discussing DLT tests, and the DTCC is introducing blockchain-based solutions. But first, hello everyone and welcome to Peepo Coin channel. If you are new to the channel, you will become a subscriber after watching this video. I'll share these two posts that Smokedog made recently. The first is that the new framework for crypto assets has been fully established. In fact, the European Banking Authority is the source of this. The European Banking Authority has confirmed that the new crypto asset framework is now fully operational. As of April 2025, the new EU crypto asset framework went into effect on December 31, 2024. Naturally, this covers MECAR, money transfers, and specific regulations and directive revisions pertaining to crypto assets. To make sure that they are not abused for illegal purposes, CSPs need to implement strong procedures and controls. Apart from this, Signum is saying that inflows from large funds are anticipated to begin in earnest in 2025 due to explicit U.S. restrictions. We're already beginning to notice changes in the regulatory environment as a whole. We only need to wait. The first thing that comes to mind when considering the end of this year is that stablecoin regulation is anticipated to be in place by August. Apart from that, we are already beginning to observe a significant emphasis and change in global crypto legislation, which I believe is being hastened due to U.S. actions. I believe that there will be a significant increase in inflows, adoption, and announcements on partnerships, collaborations, and even the use of this technology. The amazing thing about this, though, is that we also walk over here to where we have institutional players and respondents. This comes from Coinbase after Ernst & Young Parthenon, because they anticipate higher returns than other asset classes. The majority of respondents actually want to raise their allocations to digital assets in 2025. Not only do institutional players believe that cryptocurrency will do far better than other asset classes, but they are also beginning to participate due to the fact that this market is expected to grow dramatically, not just this year but also in the long run. In fact, 2024 and 2025 are here. As a result, our holdings have greatly expanded. As a result, holdings climbed to 67% from 61% in 2025, up from 24% in 2024. Family offices and hedge funds are especially optimistic, with 25% of them aiming to greatly expand their holdings in 2025, compared to the average of 12% for other firm types. 12% of our holdings stayed the same, 16% decreased, 30% decreased, and finally 0% dramatically decreased. Which of the following, as shown on the right, do you think are the primary justifications for investing in digital assets? Higher returns compared to other asset types were at the top. The capacity to engage in decentralized finance, generate yields, take advantage of arbitrage opportunities, invest in cutting-edge technology, protect against inflation, and then enjoy transaction benefits. The absence of other worthwhile prospects throughout the portfolio comes in at 8%. Thus, the top three include investments in cutting-edge technology, a hedge against inflation, and better returns than other asset classes. Therefore, all three of these are fantastic reasons to invest in digital assets when we consider what will happen in the upcoming weeks, months, and even years, because we know that inflation will only continue to spiral out of control due to government's inability to stop printing money. It really is that easy. Okay. Furthermore, the trade war and tariff negotiations will hasten further money printing, which will only result in further inflation. We already know that the field is embracing cutting-edge technology at enormous rates. We also know that we have outperformed gold and even equities and other asset classes, cycle after cycle, in terms of higher returns. Thus, it makes a great deal of sense, Outside of this, however, we also have the rate at which digital assets are being adopted by institutions. In fact, Talus's web pages featured this, and this time, institutions are actually present down here. While the industry has long said that institutions are on the way, Anton reflected on market trends and pointed out that 2024 was the first year that showed real institutional appeal. He pointed out that Talus just added organizations that oversee around $18 trillion in assets, including hedge funds that handle $100 billion in assets. Additionally, Talus's infrastructure is being used by institutional brokers that serve 150 million retail clients to provide access to digital assets. Naturally, the increasing trade activity also indicates maturity, and once more, significant increases that are 6 to 7 times the typical are just beginning to appear here. Changing institutional requirements as a result of having access to cutting-edge tools. Here we could see what they needed. On the other hand, regulatory certainty is the final component that is lacking. Indeed, we are aware that restrictions will greatly expand the options. I believe that after we actually begin to observe the market itself, we should regulate it. I believe that trillions of dollars will be poured into this area. The institutional players are already present, so keep that in mind. They have already been tapped. As I mentioned earlier in January, major banks and players such as Morgan Stanley and Bank of America have already expressed their readiness. They just need the go-ahead, which is why I've always said that regulatory certainty is the key to the changeover. As if that's where we first notice the lights turn on, and the lights aren't, going out after that. What's even more bizarre about all of this, though, is this J64 video. This is certainly a pro-Bitcoin conversation. However, this is with Bitwise as Matt. Soon the majority of organizations will have more than $1 million in Bitcoin. Imagine where XRP goes if we're talking about Bitcoin reaching $1 million, as all these institutions are predicting. Because if we consider that institutions are as optimistic about Bitcoin, while simultaneously using networks like the XRP ledger, for instance, just think of what the actual price prediction for XRP will be. There's a lot to sort of go over, so let's actually get started. We are aware that institutional interest is increasing, of course. With all of the recent news such as the FDIC, Fed, and even OCC giving their approval, we have the doors kind of opening for them as well. But take a look at this, balancing the institutional reality of quarterly reporting, and all the other components of being a major institutional investor, with the medium to long-term perspective on Bitcoin. It's likely a real driver, and it drives particular behavior, in my opinion. However, this is also the reason I believe that some strategies, such as incorporating Bitcoin into various asset allocations, considering it a tool, being able to express medium to long-term opinions about it, and using its volatility to influence other asset outcomes, are effective. I believe we can immediately increase the quantity of Bitcoin in these institutions at that point. However, my base case is that 50–70% of institutions have an adoption curve that lasts 2 or 3 cycles. The majority of organizations will have more than $1 million in Bitcoin. What year is it? We're aiming for 99.9% of Bitcoin to be issued between now and 2035, and 99.9% between 2035 and 2047, as Michael Saylor has so eloquently said. The long-term monetary depreciation themes and a lot of what's baked in the cake, in my opinion, are where the rubber meets the road.